United Kingdom Prime Minister Liz Truss has announced her resignation less than 7 weeks after taking office, setting her up to become the shortest-serving premier in the nation's history. In a brief statement delivered outside her office at 10 Downing Street, Truss laid out the headwinds facing her leadership, from Russia's invasion of Ukraine to more general economic stability. Failed leadership contender Rishi Sunak and former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, whose dramatic removal from office following a series of scandals set the stage for Truss to take power, are reportedly among those fighting to replace her. Read more. World leaders react to Truss' historic departure. Truss, who was sworn in on September 6, said she had tried to deliver on the vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that saw her triumph over former Chancellor Sunak in a summer leadership race. Given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party, Truss said. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. She said a leadership election would be completed within the next week and she would stay on as Prime Minister until a successor was chosen. Truss announced her resignation just after 1:30 p.m. on Thursday, 11:30 p.m. AEDT, after a meeting with Graham Brady, the head of the 1922 Committee, a group of backbench MPs that manages Conservative Party leadership challenges. Brady said a new leader would be in place by October 28, 3 days before the government is due to deliver a major economic update that's seen as essentially being a budget. The meeting between Truss and Brady came after more than a dozen Tory MPs sent letters to the committee confirming their lack of support for the Prime Minister, and followed a day of chaos in Westminster and weeks of political and financial tumult prompted by Truss' failed £45 billion $4 billion tax cut package. Read more. A mother never found out if her daughter was murdered. Now she's calling for change. A little more than 24 hours earlier, Truss had refused to heed a chorus of opposition calls to resign, telling the parliament she was a fighter, not a quitter. But within hours, Home Secretary Suella Braverman had quit, delivering a scathing rebuke of the government, before a shambolic House of Commons vote on fracking angered many MPs and further entrenched the chaos. It's beyond hyperbole. UK politicians react. The resignation has intensified already raucous calls for a general election from opposition parties. Opposition leader Keir Starmer said the Tory soap opera was damaging the country's economy and its global reputation. We can't have a revolving door of chaos, he told the BBC. We can't have another experiment at the top of the Tory party. There is an alternative, and that's a stable Labour government, and the public are entitled to have their say, and that's why there should be a general election. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, an outspoken critic of Truss and the Conservative Party, said a general election was now a democratic imperative. There are no words to describe this utter shambles adequately, the Scottish National Party leader said, on Twitter. It's beyond hyperbole and parody. Reality, though sick, is that ordinary people are paying the price. The interests of the Tory party should concern no one right now. Read more. Sydney resident lobbies council to have parking banned outside home. Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford, from the Welsh Labour Party, was similarly scathing. This has been a complete and utter failure of government, with everyone in this country now having to pay the price, he said, on Twitter. The deep division within the UK government means that any successor will face the same challenges. A #general election is now the only way forward for the country. French president calls for political stability. French President Emmanuel Macron said it was important for Britain to quickly find political stability, according to translations from several Europe-based journalists. Truss' replacement will become the third UK Prime Minister this year, and the second to take office without a general election, after Johnson quit in July following a series of scandals. George Canning currently holds the title of the country's shortest-serving Prime Minister, having served for about 5 months in 1827. Who takes her place? The focus in Westminster will immediately turn to Truss' successor, with a clear favourite yet to emerge. Contenders mentioned widely include Sunak, House of Commons leader Penny Mordaunt, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace and Johnson. The Times reported Johnson was expected to stand, believing it a matter of national interest. Some Tory MPs, including former Secretary of State Nadine Dorries and Minister of State James Duddridge, were already publicly calling for Johnson to lead the country, in what would be a dramatic and incredibly rapid return. The Telegraph reported that Sunak was certain to stand in the contest, citing allies. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, who ripped up almost all of the Prime Minister's tax agenda days after replacing close Truss ally Kwasi Kwarteng, will not contend for the leadership, according to multiple Westminster journalists. In a summer leadership contest that lasted longer than Truss' premiership, she finished second to Sunak on votes by Tory MPs before winning the crucial poll of some 170,000 Conservative Party members. There has been a lot of talk about how parliamentarians could prevent a repeat situation, particularly given the tight timeframe set for the latest leadership election. Brady, the head of the powerful backbench committee, said candidates would have until 2 p.m. on Monday, midnight Tuesday AEDT, to gather 100 supporters, effectively capping nominations at 3. After as many as 2 rounds of voting among MPs to confirm the top 2 candidates and their support, nominees would then go on the hustings. What would follow would be expedited online vote among members, a process potentially fraught with difficulty given the older population of the party membership, including some without internet access. If only one nominee were to emerge from the parliamentary voting, that person would become Prime Minister on Monday, Brady said. I think we're deeply conscious of the imperative and the national interest of resolving this clearly and quickly, he said, earlier in the day. Is this process constitutional? Dr. Catherine Haddon, a senior fellow with the Institute for Government, said there was no technical requirement for the Tories to call a general election, provided they could maintain a working majority in the House of Commons. However, if the party was to put forward another failed leader, the correct constitutional outcome would be for a general election. If they don't have the confidence of the parliamentary party, you can't command confidence, you can't form stable government, you have to get out of the way and call a general election or pass it over to the opposition, she told the BBC. That's how the Constitution works. Those are the principles behind it, but it is very tricky without a sort of formal vote of confidence in the House of Commons. Shortest tenure as UK Prime Minister Truss will go down in history as Britain's shortest-serving Prime Minister, a leader whose grasp on power was so tenuous in recent days it spawned a jokey online contest to see whether she would outlast a head of lettuce. The lettuce won, Liz Truss, 44 days, Conservative. September 6, 2022 to October 20, 2022. Resigned, George Canning, 121 days, Conservative. April 10, 1827 to August 8, 1827. Died, Frederick John Robinson, Viscount Goderich, 144 days, Tory. August 31, 1827 to January 21, 1828. Replaced, Bonar Law, 210 days, Conservative. October 23, 1922 to May 20, 1923. Resigned due to ill health, William Cavendish, 4th Duke of Devonshire, 236 days, Whigs. November 6, 1756 to June 29, 1757. Replaced, William Petty, 2nd Earl of Shelburne, 267 days, Whigs. July 13, 1782 to April 5, 1783.